But yes, Xron to me is a player that's he just really has an affinity for this game. Like right at the start, he just became like one of the better players just immediately. He really just seemed to understand Quake Champions a bit better. And this is like a really interesting dynamic when you move into a new game. Obviously, it is a Quake game, so a lot of the mechanics are very same, you know, how you aim, how you move. So, you know, you will find a large degree of familiarity from that perspective as a player. But then if you look at this new system, I mean, we used to have duel systems which were similar, but they were never really popularized that much. It's called Huni mode. We had this like round-based duel system, very much like this, but it never really got popular. So this really is a very new dynamic. And I was talking with ZSX previously about how much it's about being able to be good at reading players, being able to be very strong at infight. These are skill sets that aren't necessarily, for some of the older duelists who are very good, it may not have been their strongest skill sets, actually, because there's some of them are more TDM skill sets. If you're talking about the in-fight stuff, you're talking about the player reads and so on and so forth, that's something that's a bit harder to do at the very top level, but so you see a fewer players with that skill set. So there's a lot of different things coming into play, and so it's an awesome opportunity for players like RAISY, you know, a youngster, for players like Xron to come in and say, just check me out. I'm just wrecking all of you guys who played the game for like 15 years.
And I mean, on the subject of TDM, Xron in particular has been absolutely killing it on the recent 2v2 TDM tournaments that have been taking place. And a big part of that is because he is just so good in fights. But this first map, we're going to be going into Blood Covenant, Xron versus RAISY. This is a very important match for RAISY indeed. He's already fallen to Pakawa in groups. He simply can't afford to lose any more series. He's got to win from this point on.
And we'll see, that's already the Doom guys coming out for Xron. He's going to be able to pick up the Mega Health as well. And this is sort of just a bit of a setup phase. Just getting all the guns, getting all the armor here. The lightning gun is still missing for Xron, but he has the railgun, which is... He can work with this. He can start to pressure. The rail's being exchanged, but no one really connecting so far. So actually, from all the games I think we've seen so far, this is actually the slowest pace to a starting round.
No action in 30 seconds. I mean, that's got to be a record for today. But I mean, Doomslayer, really prominent on this map. You know, that double jump gives him the maneuverability to basically go wherever he wants. He can compete with that wall jump that Nyx brings to the table, and he can pretty much go wherever she wants to go, and in some cases more. You know, he's not limited by the wall. He can go wherever he wants. But just look at the stack difference. Xron sitting comfortably on way more health against Nyx. That's going to be super prominent.
Ooh, just trying to find some kind of a connection there, but the positioning here for RAISY is just superior. There's not much to do to challenge it, and RAISY actually finding a perfect angle with the LG, baiting his opponent up the jump pad there, and it looks as though Xron had no idea about that, and that's really going to cost him now. He's massively on the back foot. The pressure comes in, just has to connect a rail. There it is, but it actually comes at a cost. The exchange is also there, and that health pool, man, on Nyx, that's brutal to deal with, isn't it?
I mean, it really comes down to the fact that he missed that first shot, you know? I mean, if he'd got two shots in a row, then that exchange would have been a bit more crucial for both of them, but RAISY put in a position where he really can't fight. You know, he had to retreat. You can't afford to give up a frag this early, but that earlier ambush on the jump pad, I think that's going to send a message to Xron saying, I'm not afraid to make these plays so early in a series. You got to watch out basically everywhere you go.
Yeah, and it's a brilliant sort of flip of the situation from his perspective. So now again, you know, RAISY's in this position. It's all flipped. He's had to take the Mega. He's able to get himself the light armor, but he's by the pillars here. He's somewhat trapped, and in fact, he does connect a rail, but we can see that playing with the idea of the pursuit is RAISY at the moment, but he will not be unable to do so. And it may actually have ended up being somewhat of an error, because we can see the positioning here onto the next big item is actually superior for RAISY's, keeping tabs on that rail as well, and in comes the challenge onto with the heavy, and that's unfortunate. I felt like RAISY had a good opportunity there to get a bit of damage fall back onto the heavy, but it's all about Xron on that Doom guy again.
Now, not having a rail here is going to be really important in the sense that he wasn't able to pick him off before he sort of turned up, but RAISY, he wasn't really able to take any of those fights because his Ghost Walk was used so early on. He pretty much was forced to give up that heavy and allows Xron to get going. But when it's going to be Doomslayer, even on default full health and then a heavy armor, he's got such a heavy stack compared to Nyx at basically all times. But I mean, you know, we talk about a slow start. How about 3 minutes and no frags, which is kind of strange.
Yeah. And it's pretty insane as well. That stack for Doom guy really seems to be just such a big issue. And it's going to actually take down, and eventually that is... I did not expect this to really play out that way. It feels as though Xron sort of was backed into a corner. He didn't really understand exactly what the play was from that position. And RAISY capitalizes, and some chip damage here with the machine gun. Just mere 30 damage there as he now can start progressing back towards the heavy. Next big item, wants to get position. Knows his opponent also is lacking some guns, which is another thing to consider. And I think it's just the LG that's lacking now.
Yeah, well, it's the amount of momentum I think you can get from when the opponent's fresh off the spawn. You've almost like been rewarded with the Mega, and then you've got pretty much everything you could want. And using it just as almost like an insurance policy, but it is going to allow him to somewhat chase this one down. But is he going to try and head him off? It looks more likely he's going to try and get a read on where he's going to try and retreat to.
It's like RAISY has heard some... I think he heard some sound cues, but perhaps not. Looks as though he's unaware as to the position of Xron and his very fast Anarchy, and again, it's hard to blame him because of the speed of Anarchy. Sneaky stuff, quick rail out the telly, that's a good connection, and now Xron will circle back around here, trying to attack that heavy position from an unknown angle. Another rail lined up, won't connect, but the heavy will be the reward here, as it looks as though RAISY is not interested in the fight.
But there's actually, that significant difference between Mega and Heavy. It means Ron's can actually be able to both get the Heavy and then fight for this Mega. Is he going to be able to reappear in time, or is he going to beat him to the punch? Hang on a second. He gets the Mega. This could be massively pivotal, but no, the rail doesn't come through. Xron does answer back with one of his own. And there you go, it's going to be one champion each, and now 30 seconds into potential sudden death territory. This Anarchy mirror is going to be super important for both of them.
Xron back onto the heavy armor here, and the question is whether or not he'll be able to find a way to assert himself. And as you say, the Anarchy's so quick, it can be very hard to actually set up a fight and predict a fight, Anarchy versus Anarchy, or just Anarchy in general. And you can see the fight across the pillars just comes down to we talked about it before, that one bad rocket is all it really takes, and that is the case there for the likes of Xron here. Back up the jump pad to start collecting weapons, back to square one here with Nyx, but unfortunately, as you can see, time is an issue, and that first round lasted ages.
I mean, I respect Xron's attempt to essentially go, well, look, if I use my Ghost Walk here to survive, there's no point because it's going to waste too much time. It was more likely that fresh off the spawn, he'll use his Ghost Walk. If he just so happens to catch RAISY around the corner, he might get some uncontested damage, and that was pretty much his best chance at getting a frag on the table. But RAISY, no reason to overextend. The win was his, and he totally understood that.
And so now he's back at it again. He's got a really good position here. You can see that he can just hold over the kind of bridge area here. Just actually wants to extend towards rail, trying to deny the rail for as long as possible. Will respawn obviously very quickly, 5-second respawn on that, and RAISY will be able to fall back onto the heavy. Didn't take any damage whilst he was trying to pressure, but at the same time, he didn't really deal any damage either. So one could be really happy about this situation.
That was going to be some good movement coming out of RAISY, at least going, well, if I'm going to try and take this heavy, I need to make sure I'm basically going as fast as physically possible to just lower those options. Anarchy with a very small hitbox, and he is deceivingly hard to rail. Sometimes you see these crazy shots, but trust me, folks, it's not easy. But ooh, what a mid-air. Oh! And a combo coming through. Xron is not messing around at all.
That could not have been more perfect.
Delicious.
Could not have been more perfect. And another rail to follow up there. Xron is looking pretty damn good. That's champ advantage now.
It's a really good turnaround, I think. If you go one round down, of course, it was a close round. It went down to that time. However, I think if you're able to instantly recover with some really good execution like that, pretty much just sends that message to RAISY to say, hang on a minute, you got one round on me, but that doesn't mean I'm out. I'm still going to be playing on top form, and you have to take this very seriously.
RAISY looking to try to intercept his opponent here. There is the Ghost will pop, some initial damage done as well. Goes for the drop hit, commits to the fight. Down to 13 health. Can he survive? Can he get the frag? No, it's a trade.
I feel like that was that trade was actually pretty good for RAISY in the sense where he was pretty much using those wall jumps to desperately stay alive. It was almost like surprising they even had that trade. That should have been him just outright dead, but yeah, if they're going to trade 1 for 1, then
down
so
to
be it.
On HP, in fact, at one point, I think, as well. It's pretty close. Now, Xron is with the advantage. Wait, did you have a favorite going into this? I don't know if I
feel like by result, this is probably the hardest match to call of the day, definitely. I think RAISY's going to be not necessarily the safe pick, but I think he's going to be aware of what's on the line here, and he has stepped it up in tournament before, like DreamHack Denver. So I feel like he's going to be more than aware of what he needs to do to take this win. So I think he's going to be confident. He's got a good shot, but of course, Xron. We've already seen how dangerous this guy is in duel, and it's one of many game modes that Xron is a master of.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, my experience playing against him in Sacrifice a lot earlier this year, I just generated a lot of respect for him. So just from that perspective, I definitely edging out on him. But it's going to be, oh my god, the team guy. It's going to be fists for days.
I mean, I think that's going to be quite a recurring theme. Yeah, throughout, not just today, but every day this tournament's taken place. Every lineup's probably going to have Doomslayer, and that Berserk mode is such a crucial factor. But just that combo right there. Let's get one more lovely shot. Oh, 6 HP remaining as well. Brave stuff.
So beautiful. Yes, it's very hard to predict, I think, how a fight is going to go. And that's a lot of what Duel is about. It's about... Obviously, you have to look at a fight and to understand whether you want to commit or not, you have to be able to predict, okay, I'm going to take this much damage in this fight. And that's something that every jeweler has in their brain all the time. And that's actually why playing players like Cypher can be very scary, because he does more damage than you ever expect him in any situation to ever do. So we'll see the 1-1 indeed, and it's looking pretty damn close. Xron, though, I do feel like he's been doing very well positionally, and overall, if we don't have like a possession statistic of let's say map control, but I feel as though Xron edges that at the moment, although we are now down into a new round. It looks like it's off to a slow start, but RAISY's setting up a trap.
I think setting up a trap will work when you understand that the matchup's Doomslayer versus Anarchy. Anarchy's going to be flying around the map, and he's going to be more likely to just sort of fly around those corners. And if you're Doomslayer and you've got that stack and you've got a rocket launcher combined with Berserk, that's pretty much more damage than any Anarchy is willing to take. RAISY, on this map in particular, he's been known to set some pretty crazy traps. So particularly up near rail, he's had some really weird plays where he's gone for these gauntlet surprises near rail, and they've worked out. It's really bold stuff, but RAISY finds a way on Blood Covenant.
Run with some information against the sound cue there. The rocket was there from RAISY, who didn't connect fully, but it just shows us that RAISY's very aware of Xron and that he was not able to really catch him. And that's really the name of the game in this situation, as you mentioned, against that Anarchy. Catching him can be so difficult and so frustrating, but look at this, there's nowhere to escape here. Has to pop the Berserk to get out of dodge, but can he do it? Down to 46, picks up the health bubble as he escapes, but the pursuit in from Xron! Oh. That's beautiful there. That is a lovely rail, and now Xron is in a decisive, or rather a commanding position.
I actually loved the decision from Xron to go, well, I'm not going to directly chase, I'm going to head him off, he has no choice but to run away. I've got my injection if I need it. And yeah, just got that amazing read on where RAISY was going to try and retreat. Bang on the money. Ooh, speaking of which, how about that?
The vertical rails, you love to see it. RAISY back in it, showing that he's got some fight in him, and that's... once again, the situation essentially resets. Oh my God, that is scary. The Berserk is popped for a potential opportunity at a finish, but it will not be awarded to Xron. He's going to have to wait for that.
He didn't tunnel vision it though. He saw the frag. I think if he understood just how weak RAISY was, he may have chased that potentially with the sheer level of health. But the option to go, well, if he's weak and he's going to be retreating, I can keep control, I can take this Mega, and when I inevitably fight him next, I'm going to have way more resources. He's got Mega and Heavy because of that. So he's going to be happy with that result, but...
Nice, and Xron is going to be taking the fight at the LG. It was a brilliant way to open up the fight. There's so much damage. You could see exactly that Xron, I think after that initial LG, he suddenly realized, I can't take this fight anymore. I did not expect this LG damage to come in, and he didn't know what to do. Beautiful setup there from RAISY.
I think it was acknowledging that even if he gets hit by that rail, the sheer time it would take before he can fire again is going to be a lot of uncontested LG. He's going to try and chase it down. Oh, wow, Xron commits suicide. Point blank, a bit of an odd exchange, but he'll take it, definitely.
So, fun bit of Quake trivia. If you kill yourself with a rocket launcher in Quake World, it was known as boring, because back in Quake Worlds, you would have these messages that would get printed in the console for death messages. And one of the rest messages for if you kill yourself with a rocket launcher would be, player name is bored with life. And so a lot of the Scandinavians...
I remember seeing that,
not necessarily understanding exactly perhaps the application of the word, would say that you bored if you kill yourself with a rocket launcher. So
I like that. I agree with that.
The Quake history in there. Shout outs to the Quake World fans if they are watching. I guess I'm a Quake World fan, I'm watching.
No, I feel like going into this next round, I think Xron, it actually seems like almost he's the one that's trying to lay the trap instead. RAISY's going in with Anarchy. They're pretty much trying to do the exact same thing. If he can keep control of rocket launcher as well, keep that really strong part of the map for even a small time, but very quickly opts to go for the Heavy instead. I mean, Doomslayer with the Heavy is super dangerous.
And it is actually quite funny how explosive this is, but we have these slow portions of the game where they're feeling each other out. And again, the fights are hard to predict. That's a nice opening rocket there. Can't connect the follow-up rail though. That will be a little bit disappointing for Xron. I think that would have really made a massive impact on his ability to have presence on the map. He still has brilliant presence, good control of the upper positions, so he can keep tabs on exactly how his opponent's moving around the map, but he can't quite get to him, and that's one of the issues we're playing against Anarchy.
And yeah, I mean, since the beginning, right? I mean, it's one of those things that controlling the high ground, you have so much eyes and ears around. On top of the weapons, you have control over Mega, control over Rocket, Rail. And if you're both of these champions, you're not going to have any difficulty getting to Rail from basically anywhere. But hang on a minute, RAISY's landed a couple of good shots, and now Xron, funny enough, is the one that in just a small amount of time is forced to run away.
Yeah, it kind of almost felt like for a second there, RAISY didn't realize his opportunity, but he's starting to pursue, and there it is. The shotgun comes out, the damage is good, the inject, oh, so close. Oh, the charge there, the lock-on was there.
That was a 10 out of 10 backflip as well from Xron.
Oh, man. That was close.
I was quite worried when he was doing very minimal damage on that super shotgun. You know, it was pretty much 12, it was 15, and it was... He goes in for the berserk, goes, why not? And whoa, straight through the teleporter, God. Another point blank. And I believe that was Doom 2 shotgun. That's a daisy.
I feel like RAISY should just rename to the Matador, because he just pulled, like that was the ball charging there. He just barely pulled out in the last second. Oh my goodness, the tension here for Xron. He's under a lot of pressure, the LG damage coming in. Just a couple licks more there from RAISY as he understands that one is not in the safest position in the world, and RAISY has the ability to get himself on the heavy, and the challenge is in there. Oh no. The bounces off the rocket. They are solid. Definitely
forced into an all or nothing Rail situation right there. He didn't really have the tools available when he was stuck in the air. He had to bank it on the highest damage output he could possibly get in a short space of time. Unfortunately, with the shot not coming through, I mean, that's all she wrote for that one, but still alive. And to be honest, plenty of time left on this round. All he has to do is get one more frag to even things up. And with Doomslayer, that's always going to be possible.
Yeah, the stack is just so incredibly scary, and you can see the classic trick hiding around the bridge there. That was also a classic move in Quake Live Duel as well. If you wanted to try to set up traps, it's just a very good position. You have escape options, but you also have brilliant options for getting information as well as just trapping your opponents. So it's a really good if you don't know what else to do. You can play around the rocket and the bridge, and RAISY. That stack is just absolutely enormous, and well.
He didn't even need the berserk.
He did not even need it.
Did not even need it. But just like that, we have 1.5 minutes left. But Nyx versus Doomslayer, I mean, this was discussed earlier, but if Doomslayer is able to catch Nyx without a Ghost Walk, it's kind of tricky. You know, normally she can go for that wall jump to try and escape certain areas. Doomslayer is pretty much just going to double jump anywhere to follow through. Using the jump pad, that's quite brave, but he must have understood, I've just got more stack, so he can take the risk.
Yeah, and the follow-up comes in, the nice air rocket, but the Ghost Walk comes out. Now how will the situation be read? Back into the engagement here as the Berserk's in, but caught with the LG and just pinned to the wall.
I actually really like the choice to go for LG there as well. I mean, if Doomslayer is going to be airborne, there's a really good weapon. If he's airborne, that's going to catch him out. If he's going to be Doomslayer and he's going to get stuck in that straightforward lunge, there's only one way Doomslayer can move to attack you, which means the LG has such a higher chance to connect because he's in a set line he can't do anything about.
Oh, absolutely. It was perfect. Xron, speaking of perfect, he's got a perfect situation to get some damage in. His opponent will get the hell out of dodge, but that's going to allow Xron to pick up the Mega. But he knows that. He's going to leave it up here just to try to get a better timing on a potential catch on RAISY, but it's absolutely backfired. Oh, it could not have backfired any more than that.
And, I mean, RAISY's in a good situation now. He just pretty much just swooped in there, did a whole bunch of damage that wasn't really returned either. And RAISY, he still has got a very good LG. You know, the LG's not as good as it once was, but RAISY still does find a way to make it work. I know even at Denver, and that was, you know, very soon after the LG was adjusted, and RAISY was one of the main players to watch. Where is it going to affect him? And funnily enough, he had one of the best LGs out of anyone in that tournament. So it's only practice time since then to get better.
And right now it's looking really even between these two players. I mean, this is the both players have won a round each. Yet to drop a champion. We're a minute in. Both players taking it very slow. Trying to feel things out here, but the Doom guy, his health is just so strong and will be able to replenish it, but unable to challenge for any positioning around the Mega. It is RAISY there that's able to really take full assertion of himself and his presence on the map, and that's a heavy for him, and he can get to the Mega in time, gets the catch to the rail follow-up. That's going to just completely prevent Xron from putting any pressure on this Mega. RAISY is perfectly set up for the frag.
Really good choice. And speaking of the frag, he's going to chase it down, but there's one defensive rocket from Xron. Unfortunately, no damage to follow through. RAISY is actually able to chase this one down, and there we go, another forward flip. RAISY with a very impressive frag, and it's important for him to take that one going into this final round. And just remind everyone, he has actually lost a series in his group stages before. He needs this win. He needs to take this series, and no one's going to understand that better than him in this situation.
And that is like one of the additional parts of pressure which makes tournament play on LAN just so fascinating, how players handle it. Some deal with it well, some deal with it not so well. And It's where the men are made.
In a very short space of time, I feel like RAISY has been able to progress in that quite heavily. I think that's what let him down at QuakeCon, but ultimately it's what he used to his advantage to become better in the future lands he would attend. You know, like his level of clutch and his level of composure from Denver to QuakeCon was just straight up uncomparable. It was just an entirely different person.
Absolutely, and it's a new game. There's going to be a new breed of players. We've got a lot of old names, but looking for some of those newer ones, and perhaps it's the likes of RAISY and Xron who could shock the world scene. We'll see whether or not that's the case. First of all, they've got to beat each other, and it's proving quite difficult to even get to grips with one another. But of course, you know, RAISY with that first initial frag, still playing the Anarchy in a really good position to just try to run the clock down at this point.
I mean, with 2 minutes on the clock, it's going to be one of his best friends. Anarchy is super efficient on this map too, of just sort of juking for days, and RAISY has got fantastic movement. However, going into the jump pad, he had to go in for that direct. Xron was probably looking for something very similar, but RAISY just a bit quicker on the mark there. And with the 2 champions down, it's going to be very difficult for Ron to recover. You're going in with the gauntlet there for a little bit of a Hail Mary. Well, actually, no, maybe just try and sneak one away. But he's still alive. But for how long?
Oh, the damage is coming in. Yeah, going up the jump pad move was so bold.
I'm surprised he did it, to be honest.
And how do you hit a direct? Do you have to hit a direct rocket? And when do you do that in that situation? That's insane. Well, Xron is not in the best position as far as stack is concerned, but Anarchy as well is not on the best health also. So we'll see a bit of downtime here as both players begin to stack up and sort of avoid fights for a while. And again, we have to just then think about the time, and by the time we'll probably have an engagement, it could very well be that there's 30 seconds left, which really encourages RAISY to just keep running the map. And as you said, Anarchy is brilliant at just keeping his opponent at bay on this map, but got to be careful as he injects. I was going to say, got to be super careful about that. Up the jump pad, the direct, shortly the finish.
Still vulnerable to a rail, even though it just picked that one up in the chase. Xron, think about it, one more frag, fresh off the spawn. Even if he gets the Ghost Walk out, if he can get out right now, wait a minute, he doesn't even need it. RAISY lands on his head, and before he even has time to go invisible, there goes one rocket.
That's daylight robbery. That's daylight robbery right there.
Before our very eyes.
That is unbelievable. That is quite unfortunate for Mr. RAISY. We'll see whether he can recover.
You know he was looking for that defensive play, you know, pop the Ghost Walk if things go wrong.
I feel like we're in store for a huge amount of overtime, so I feel like Doom is, again, the stack is really difficult to deal with. Like, that disparity between him and Nyx creates a situation, I feel, as though where Nyx really needs everything to just go perfectly, and that's just very hard to do against good players. So we'll see whether or not that's the case, or whether or not RAISY's going to be able to capitalize on some overextension, some fine angles, and the rails will come in once again. Oh, Ron's in there. That is phenomenal.
5 minutes on the mark.
I did not expect that. That's so insane. Denying the overtime. I thought it was guaranteed. But you almost feel like RAISY was in a very favorable position by the end. Like, yes, the comeback was made. Yes, it was a crazy turnaround, and Xron was still in it. But at the end of the day, the round was not over. The hard bit wasn't even at the end of its point. You had to go into the Doomslayer versus Nyx matchup where that stack was super significantly different. It's like, well, even though RAISY has just lost 2 frags really quickly, he's still got to stay composed because he's got a heavily stacked Doomslayer versus a Nyx. That's not the worst thing in the world to deal with, but those defensive rails, I mean, Xron, that level of just sheer clutch. And this was only map 1. You know, we still have potentially 2 more maps left to go. This is ridiculous. Yes, it's such a close game. It's really unbelievable, and I wonder actually how it's going to develop as we change maps, because obviously the dynamics between the different maps create very interesting stylistic differences and preferences, but these players do seem to be quite similar at the moment in levels, so it's really impossible to predict, and that's what we expected, isn't it? That's just definitely what we expected.
It just comes down to those young man reactions. You know, these guys, they're a bit quick on the mark, and to be honest, we've seen some ridiculous stuff from both these guys, so it's still hard to call. And that was a really, really sort of close scenario. But Xron, he can be happy with that. I think going into basically any map, he's going to be in a situation where it's like, right, I just pulled off a million ridiculous moments in the space of like the 3 rounds that I won. So I think RAISY, he's going to be a little bit nervous going into his next map. I think he's not exactly going to crack. You know, RAISY hasn't really been cracking as of late because he has had a lot of experience. He's been basically entering any tournament he can get his hands on. And that was a big contributing factor as to how RAISY made such a fast climb in Quake Champions from how he started to now. So he's going to be ready. However, on Ruins of Sarnath, I mean, we've seen this map already picked a couple of times, and there's the Slash coming out. It's Ron. Really like watching Slash on this map. She has a lot of freedom to basically do whatever she wants.
Yeah, Slash is great. Slash for me is like the most fun character to move around with, because feel like Slash is by far the biggest skill stealing for movement. Like the stuff you can do with Slash is actually incredible. And also one thing as well with Slash's movement is that it's actually the way that it works. Obviously you have to crouch and so you're essentially not bunny hopping, but the way that that dynamic works when you are crouching and sliding around and you have that sort of pseudo air control as it were, because you're sort of sliding around the ground. You can't really call it air control at that point, can you? Ground control, I don't know.
Floor control.
Floor control. But the movement is actually identical to how it works with Quake World, because again, it's a bit hard to like just explain it on the fly, but what that basically essentially means is that there's huge amounts of movement options that you can do with Slash, and it's actually very, very, very difficult to have all of those tools in your bag, and you don't need to, because you can just do the basics very well, and that is usually just going to be enough anyway. So,
and of course, the mobility of Slash was basically just increased in the recent patch that allowed her to plasma trail in any direction. She wasn't stuck to just going forward. She can now plasma trail in more freedom to essentially go where she wants to go, which helps in basically every single game. Sacrifice for obvious reasons, duel for maps like we would see on something like Ruins of Sarnath, where there's a lot of small corridors. RAISY being the kind of player that likes to set traps, I wonder if that's going to be one of his answers to dealing with this Slash pick. Because normally on something like Ruins, I know obviously we don't really see Sorlag get selected too much anymore, but that was a very common answer to a Slash, was to essentially just pick those spots, and when she comes around a corner, just acid all over the place with LG before it was adjusted, and she pretty much couldn't really get out of that situation. But looks like they've waited for a new pick. We'll see what the change is. Was there a misclick, I wonder?
Yeah, I believe there was. So just remade it, and it's... Ruins is... do you have a favorite map, actually? Because Ruins is definitely a map that... I feel like generally the map design is like very, very pleasing, like aesthetically beautiful.
I feel visually Ruins is my favorite map. Like, just visually it looks really cool. If you look at the top and you see these like little manta ray things, it's like, oh my god, there's so many of them. It looks great.
Speaking of visuals, just got to shout out the stage, man. All these beautiful jib shots. Just improved by, when we get, it's even better when we're on the shot as well, of course.
100%.
Beautified even more. But yeah, I love actually the aesthetic with Quake in general, and it's something that, it just comes easily to Quake. We have so much history, and that the theme, like the Lovecraftian theme is just, it's just beautiful. It's absolutely just phenomenal. I just love it. And also the sounds. The Quake sounds are so horribly, just, that's really the opposite word that I wanted. So beautifully distinctive.
Well, I know the idea is always to turn your music down so you can hear all the sound cues, so we don't really hear music get selected very much, but at an event like this, during moments, you get to really hear the ambient sounds, like you notice when Lockbox is loading in, there's that really sort of eerie and intimidating tune that plays, and most people don't even realize it's there because everyone turns the music down, but if you listen to it now, it's like, wow, this is really good.
It's definitely something that I really enjoy about this game, and it's like we are about to join the action here. Xron one map up against RAISY. A crazy game, to be honest. I imagine for both of the players there that it's just impossible for them to really understand who was going to win that until the very last shot was fired. However,
good catch, actually. He's caught sight of where RAISY was located super early on, and Xron favoring that Doom Slayer. With Xron in particular, like he really does like to use this champion. But we see him go Doom Slayer first quite often, which is quite interesting. Of course, he pretty much is good anywhere on a lineup. He can be that trump card, or he can just be that champion that has a fantastic start. You catch someone fresh off the spawn with Berserk and you've got loads of health, good amount of armor, and the ability to do 75 damage punches, you're pretty much laughing. But against Anarchy, this is a good map for high mobility.
Yeah, I think if I'm making the choice, I would take Doom first, just because I think that could start is and like having more opportunities potentially if you play well to exert his well-roundedness. Is definitely going to be a favorite for me. But as you say, like there's not necessarily a right answer.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain locations here where you might fight for Mega, you might be at the Heavy at the same time early on, and if there's Anarchy there and you're trying to fight for it, again, access to something like Berserk is going to be a fantastic tool to have in combination with any other weapon that you've got. So I feel like he's pretty much almost like a one-size-fits-all. In some cases, he's pretty much just good for so many different occasions.
For me, it's like he's just that what I see as Ranger previously. It's like this sort of super all-rounded guy that can sort of deal with everything. It has like movement options, decent stack, all that sort of thing. But again, we're seeing this slow start between these two players, and that that's a bit of respect. That's a good way to start off a duel. Generally speaking, I would always advise players, especially newer to duel, to just play the basics first. Don't take any risks. Don't have to commit. See what your opponent's going to do first. And that exchange already forces out the Berserk.
I mean, he's not afraid.
Find it.
That was very bold. I mean, Xron understood he had so much more health than RAISY, even though he was trying to head him off by the heavy. He pretty much just picked up and went straight for it. He just needs one more rail, and he's going to be in the money. RAISY's going to do everything he can to escape. Because, I mean, well, just look at that health. No armor in sight either. Even here, he needs to get armor, otherwise he's still railable with his health. And ask, and ye shall receive. That's a frag on the board.
Ron starting things off well, and the LG comes into play as well as he holds center map. He's in a very good position here, looking to keep tabs on this heavy. Nice rail coming in there from RAISY, and Ron actually doing some damage to himself.
Just makes it a bit more difficult for himself, you know?
Yep.
Just give a bit more of a chance.
So we'll see whether RAISY can assert himself on the next big items here. Looking for all the guns as well, yet to get that LG.
Now, if you're RAISY, though, you're going to be thinking about what's at stake here. And the fact that he's down one series already in his groups. If he loses to Xron, I mean, being 0-2 in groups is going to be very painful to accept, and it's going to put you in a very bad situation. Every decision is going to have to be calculated. No, it could cost you the tournament. One bad mistake.
And here it is, 2 rails connected, commits him, but it's, of course, Xron coming in with a berserk. That's going to be the difference, and that is such a difficult mechanic to deal with, from that sense that you feel, I've hit 2 rails, I will pursue this fight. You turn the corner, and that's 150 damage in your face.
He 100% used it against him. You know, RAISY's forced to use his berserk mode just to get that little burst of speed to escape. Stuck into it for quite some time, though, so he actually dedicates all the way into the mega room, which unfortunately, with Xron lying in wait, you're going to be stuck in melee for a good chunk of time, and that's time you really can't answer. You can't fight in that situation because you haven't got the health.
And this is one of those situations where you see that first pick Doom really being, like, you know, so very useful, just because, you know, you can deal with everything, and you have the situation as well whereby Doom you can play the basics super well. Like, you can play very positionally. If you're hitting your shots as well, it's so good at dealing with those the squishier characters, which, I mean, there's not a lot of great solutions for a Nyx, there's not a lot of great solutions for an Anarchy, but I feel like Doom does have such good options to just completely blow you out of the water if you get some of those good connections. And right now, we're seeing Ron being pretty on point with his shots.
And I feel like, you know, Anarchy and Nyx, they're champions you're going to see all the time. So even though Doomslayer was ultimately one of the newer champions in the game, he's been out for a while, of course, but you've had more than enough time to just get that matchup knowledge, you know, how players like to handle all of these champions, especially on a map like this where high mobility is so favored.
And there it is, a challenge over the Mega. The pressure comes in. Rail's connected, and it's just backing away here, just trying to get himself onto an armor. It's always a smart way to do it. Just kind of slowly fight your way back onto some more resources. And Ron actually in a position now where I like this, using those double jumps instead of the water. And good connection.
It's almost like that rail shot was just his reward for that little detour he took.
Yeah, and it's really important too. Like, you never really want to take teleporters in spots like that. And so I was wondering how he would manage that positionally. Once again, we're going to see the same option collected, or taken rather, by Xron, and there is the engagement. Anarchy just darting around the corner, but be careful with these engagements. First rail connects, the second one as well. That's a hard one to hit, and that's the frag.
And why I loved that rail shot was it was almost like Xron waited for the rail to miss to get his own shot on deck, and that was the one that connected and ultimately set up for the rest of the frag. It was just good awareness, knowing he's going to switch eventually, and when he does, if it misses, I'm going to take my free pot shot.
And he connects one off the spawner as well, which, again, it creates a situation where RAISY's going to have some time where he can't pressure a weakened Ron. So Ron has done a great job from that perspective, keeping RAISY at arm's length. But now RAISY's ready to go back in, and he's going to also realize that Ron is not going to be in the best position in the world to potentially defend. The Mega was collected, though, but that's gone.
Yeah, going in for his Ghost Walk. I think Xron probably would have seen the effect there. He was still a nice shot when it was used, but we'll see. Chasing it down. RAISY, he's not going to be able to go for defensive rockets. He's going to have to try and get away, but the full chase comes through. Unfortunately, had nowhere near enough health. And even if he got that heavy, Xron was still probably going to get that frag if he chased him down with 20 health.
Ron's actually just absolutely outplaying his opponent right now. Because the other thing that's problematic here for RAISY as well is that he's just not connecting the shots. And so we can see, obviously, that superior stack on average with Doom. It's just really coming into handy here. And again, just good rails from Ron. He's just not missing a beat, and LG for the finish.
And that's just good management, right? No, why even overextend with a single shot weapon that has a cooldown when the LG is just going to finish the job and he's basically dead? This is a very, very scary situation to be in with RAISY, because it's just going from bad to worse. That snowball was continuing to go, and you know, he's going to have to, before he even thinks about winning this map now, he needs to just stop the momentum, and that in itself is going to be easier said than done.
All right, well, we get the Mega collected at the start here for Xron, and it's all about getting those weapons now as well. Just you can play it passively. Don't want to take too many fights unless a really good opportunity presents itself.
I wonder if he saw the orange there. I wonder if he actually saw that RAISY, I think he activated it in that location. Yeah, it's just finished up. RAISY used it almost like just to try and get away, but it's going to be down for a significant amount of time. Even though Xron has a lower stack, it's like you said, he's hitting the shots. So one good shot is going to undo that quite heavily. And
very weak, very, very weak, but it's okay. Mega's there to save him.
The immediate change is that RAISY's gone Doomslayer first. You know, he's no longer going with that Anarchy. He's opting to use him for another day. I think he needs to have an answer for this very obvious problem that Xron is bringing to the table, where he's got the accuracy, he's got the shots, he's got not only the level of control, but just his Doomslayer is seemingly such a pain in the backside to deal with.
Yeah.
RAISY trying to fight fire with fire.
Yeah, this is definitely the adjustment. I was wondering if it would be made. Again, those squishy characters, it just, Xron, the way that he's playing this map with Doom is just, they just can't quite really find the right opportunities. And again, he's just connecting too much damage as well. So RAISY needs to play a much more defensive style. Like, he needs to find a spot where, you know, he's limiting the ability for Xron to hit shots. He's in a spot where you want to make Xron impatient, but the problem is you're almost doing it a bit too late, because if you want to frustrate your opponent, make them impatient because you're not giving them fights, you don't want them to be in a position where they already have 2 rounds on you, because Xron has all the patience in the world. He's got 2 rounds, he doesn't have to worry, he can play it safe, he can play the time, he can play the clock, and he can be confident.
I mean, sometimes the question you have to just ask yourself is, what's the rush? You know, if you have all the control, why do you need to overextend? You know, why do you need to give them that opening? If what you're doing is clearly working, hang on, he's going in with the Berserk, but that's everything. RAISY unable to capitalize on just how weak Xron was there, because obviously stuck into melee, but very quickly, when he comes out of Berserk, he's got a rocket launcher in weight. There you go. Yeah,
and that's huge. I thought the rocket would actually get the kill there for Xron's perspective, but now this is the first time Xron actually died on Ruins of Sarnath against RAISY here. So perhaps there's opportunity now that Doom switch has occurred there for RAISY. Now he's up again, and now he can do what was being done to him, essentially.
I mean, that's going to be the beauty of these mirror match situations. We have the exact same lineup. You know, the champions give you the same manner of tools on top of your already fundamental tools in duel. But wow, he meets him in the middle. Head first, he's confident he can finish this, but goes for a weapon switch. Very surprised that he actually switched away. That was pretty much guaranteed.
That's quite, yes. That's a mistake. But perhaps he can remedy the mistake. He's going to be able to bully his opponent away from the heavy, so he'll get more opportunities. But the question is whether or not that, if that was the opportunity that he had to...
Let's just hope he does not live to regret that. He's going in with the LG, tries to get the shot, but misses it. Xron, temporarily still alive. I mean, he has been on borrowed time for a good minute since that exchange. What is going on?
Yeah, and this is not going well right now. RAISY's going to realize that, because this starts to wear on you eventually as a player. You're like, okay, I made a mistake.
Surely he's already stressed as well.
I made another mistake. Oh God, I made another mistake. And then eventually you're like, how many opportunities do I get to win this game? Because against a player of the quality of Xron, you're not going to get many chances. And the rocket comes in as the drop is there, as Xron starts to move into position on the heavy, but he's going to have to get out of dodge as well, because it's not spawning anytime soon. And RAISY going for the fight there, unable to really catch the weakened Xron.
What RAISY, what he does have, I suppose, is the fact that, of course, he's got the timer on his side. He's consistently doing damage to Xron. It's just not enough to get a frag. So he's keeping him behind. If Xron hasn't got the stack, he's not able to take a fight. If he can't take a fight, obviously he can't get the frag to get back into the round. So for now, I wonder if RAISY's going to go, right, if I'm not finishing these kills, just try and keep him behind. Let's try and play on the timer. And that gives him time to reflect. But I do worry. I do worry about these very obvious mistakes that RAISY makes, and to be honest, doesn't normally make. He's not been known to make these crazy errors very recently, of course.
Uh-oh, this is really bad.
Oh, no.
Oh, the Mega is going to be stolen away as well. This is the opportunity. There's not much time left as well. Xron is in a position where he can absolutely get a frag, and I think with Anarchy, he's probably thinking, how do I get in? How do I force out the Berserk? Well, he's done it, and now as an opportunity.
I can't believe this is happening. I really, this is not something I expected, but just look at the difference. Xron could easily take this fight now. RAISY just needs to go for a Hail Mary rocket. He's stuck in his injection, but somehow still in the driver's seat. Can he finish the job? He has to get something going. The prediction rockets come through, but he manages to somehow stay in this round. How is this possible?
Oh my God, that was so close. The shotgun. You never know if the shotgun's going to deliver. You never quite know how many of those pellets will connect, but just enough there for Xron. I'm surprised he didn't go down straight out the telly as well. And he's going to be swinging on by there, collecting all of the items. And now we're into a situation where we haven't seen on this map, which is Anarchy versus Anarchy between these two players. You'll be able to play it better.
Still available, and there's no armor currently, so if RAISY gets caught off guard, or even Xron for that matter, that could have been it. That could have been the final rail, and it would have been right before the armor spawned. But now RAISY has the temporary advantage, but that's going to be swiftly undone. Xron with a little bit of armor of his own. This is completely even in this sudden death. But if you're RAISY now, I mean, how fast must your heart be pumping? This is do or die.
And it's there could be a... We'll have to see how many edges this comes down to, but obviously Xron is 3 injects away from the being able to survive one rail if you're on max health. And there it is, the rockets. I don't know what's going on. It's like both players just decided this is a good moment to fight with those rockets. And with Anarchies, what the hell's going to happen? You never know.
That was quite an odd exchange. Kind of looked like 1-2, so I believe ultimately the round, I think, did go to RAISY in the end there. But I mean, surely that was like a split second from being a 3-0. That would have been the most insane finish. And we've seen that before, but these guys, they have no time to collect. RAISY has no time to think about it. And funny enough, actually, he's gone back to Anarchy. He's doing what didn't work in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, that is very curious. Actually, we'll see though. I mean, obviously he gathered some information playing Doom. Perhaps he felt like it was hard for him to get in spots where he wants to. We'll have to see how it actually plays out. But obviously it should be confidence and more confidence from Xron from that perspective.
I mean, how much do you be feeling when you almost let a round completely slip through your fingers and the final moment in sudden death was almost 2 simultaneous rockets exploding?
Yeah.
And it just happens that yours just was on the mark a split second earlier. I mean, that's a lifeline if I've ever seen one, but he's got to do everything he can with it. But if that's the turnaround, that is an incredible turnaround.
Xron with the info there, able to understand where his opponent is at the moment, but again, Anarchy can very quickly reposition. And Xron sort of locked out of the mega area, and I don't think he's going to be able to do too much. But actually, no, he could still make his way over there. But this is really interesting right now. Again, just Anarchy versus Anarchy is just so strange for how the positioning works in fight because they move so quickly. And you throw that in with the injects, and it's very hard to predict positionally who's going to be better off, who's going to connect that one rocket. You know, just everything can just switch so quickly. And
I mean, on the subject though, it's impressive how consistently Xron has been able to land some of these crazy shots because of that. There are so many variables that make shots harder. The fact that Xron is able to consistently get them almost every single time, it's what's been making him so dominant on this map in particular. Very, very impressive.
Raiding Anarchy is no easy feat, but that's 2 in a row onto RAISY, and he's just built up a stack. He was in a position where he was wanting to be able to challenge big items and start taking fights, but he's on the back foot again, and he's going to get caught! Xron in there with the first frag, and that's the Berserk pop as well. Again, didn't even need it, but better safe than sorry, and he's going to have plenty of time if he's able to get an item to get that Berserk back, but the rail's coming in again. He's been definitely better than RAISY on the rail so far.
Definitely. I mean, like, without a shadow of a doubt. And I mean, like, losing the Berserk when the opponent's just about to spawn, I mean, what's the worst that could happen? You have more weapons than them at the very least. I mean, yeah, they've got Berserk, but you still have the ability to do more damage. He spawned near LG and Rail too, so that's a significant distance away from Rocket. And Rockets, of course, are Doomslayer's best friend. Just like that. RAISY in big trouble in what could very well be the final round fresh off the spawn. I mean, is that going to be it? Is that game over?
Well, that's the perfect situation, isn't it? That opportunity now for Xron. Will it commit him in? Oh, he's going to find the finish. Very easy. And I absolutely love how clean Xron's aim has been so far with the rail, because he just takes his time with the shots. That is just supreme confidence and routine coming into play to allow him to swing into the victory in a matchup that could have been, I mean, incredibly close. I mean, you saw the first map was very close, but Ruins, there was just no answer from RAISY, ultimately.
I mean, like, he tried to go for somewhat of a, I guess the more obvious answer being changing Doomslayer at the last minute, which didn't actually work out for him, and funny enough, he would have taken that round super dominantly had he not just let it slip through his fingers. You know, that could have been just 2 frags and then a timeout, and they would have been happy days. Let's go into the next round. But that final moment